Today we're going to take a look here at the rose garden. Now this isn't officially the rose garden, but I was walking through today and noticed that so many roses were blooming right now in mid-October that I thought it would be worth showing you what they're looking like. It's been quite some time since we've actually done a recap of this particular garden bed, and you know, it's breathtaking what things are still looking like. I keep saying it over and over again. It's so late in the season and everything's looking so good, but I really do think it's because we have been blessed with some magnificent fall weather and haven't really gotten cold yet here in West Michigan. Hi, I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings, and standing here, these roses, it's so beautiful. The fragrance is beautiful and the blooms are beautiful. So let's go ahead and take a closer look here at what's blooming. First off, let's talk about these annuals that have done fantastic. We've got the Suncredible sunflowers. I love the sunflowers because they are continuous blooming from when we planted them all the way until we get a good hard frost. We haven't done any deadheading on these, and they look fairly clean, lots of color. And sunflowers, one thing I've noticed is the pollinators are loving the sunflowers, especially here now that it's fall. So that's been really neat to see, just all the bee activity and such, that we're able to provide these pollinators late in the season. Another plant that I wasn't sure how it was going to do, because this was our first year growing it, were these beautiful Silenia begonias. So this is the Silenia yellow begonia. We planted them here in a full sun garden. And again, I wasn't sure how they would do in the full sun, but they have done fantastic. They're only about 10 or maybe 12 inches tall by about 12 inches wide. And we haven't done any deadheading or any trimming on these at all this summer. And they just created these beautiful mounds of color. And really, I think they did a nice job as a border plant. We've also planted them in hanging baskets, and they did fabulous in baskets as well. But if you're looking for a nice little border plant that really takes very little work, these Silenia begonias have done really well. Now let's dig into some of the shrubs that are in this bed. And it's kind of funny because these sunflowers have really kind of taken over, and they're almost as big as many of the shrubs that we have planted here. But let's start off here with the roses. So this is the Oh So Easy Urban Legend Rose, which has really deep fire engine red blooms. I love all the flowers that this plant has produced. Right now it's got a fairly decent habit. It's only about 24 inches tall, 24 inches wide. One thing it does have is a very kind of wiry, what I like to call cane. So what we do in that situation is, if we have a rose bush that looks pretty good, but yet it has one very long branch on it. Now I'm going to be careful because this one is quite thorny. We'll just go ahead and trim it off, and I'm just going to let that go on the ground. I'll pick it up later. We'll trim any thick canes off to keep the nice habit of the plant, and that's something you can do throughout the summer. So if you notice, if your roses start sending up just a really weird long winger, go ahead and trim it off. Next, and this one is definitely getting buried by the sunflowers, we have a lilac buried in there, and that is one of our bloomerang lilacs. So once we get the sunflowers all pulled out, it'll be able to kind of put on new growth, especially next spring when it's ready to bloom again. But the sunflowers really have kind of taken it in and made it their own. Next, we have the Senorita Rose, and this is a nice kind of a peachy colored rose. Right now it's not blooming, although, well, actually, let's get rid of that. There you go. There's a nice little rose and a nice rose bud of the Senorita Rose. Now typically that rose is going to be a much fuller, bigger rose, and that's just kind of a random here late in the season rose bud. But the Senorita roses are a nice big full flowering or full flowered peachy orange color rose. Next, we have a cornus or dogwood Sergeant Pepper. So I love Sergeant Pepper because it's got gorgeous variegated foliage. Look at how that pink is just so rosy on this plant right now. So this not only has beautiful foliage color, but let's look at this. I'm going to strip these leaves off. Check out that, actually I'm making a shade, so check out in the sun the beautiful red twig. So I love using these red twigs in the winter time in my winter porch pots. So not only does it have beautiful variegated foliage, awesome red twigs that can be used in the winter time that really create just, I don't know, that upright wow or thriller to my winter porch pots. Another rose, Oh So Easy Lemon Zest. This one's about 3 foot tall right now. The flowers of lemon zest are just a little bit smaller than some of the other roses we'll see today, but you can see like there was a ton of roses on this plant at one time. So just a really nice, crisp, clean, bright, but yet soft yellow rose. The Oh So Easy roses are known for their excellent disease resistance. So if you're looking for a rose that is easy to care for and really has not a lot of issue with diseases, those Oh So Easy roses are a great selection to choose from. Next, we've got a reminiscent rose, and this one is Reminiscent Crema. So the reminiscent roses have huge flowers on them. Look at that, a lot of petals, a lot of fragrance. The reminiscent roses do get a bit taller, but I'm going to cut this because I'm going to see if I can describe to you the scent of it. I don't know, it's just so fresh. I'm going to say it's like what I think of when I think of a rose smell, but what does that mean, right? Sweet and just fresh. It's beautiful. But looking closer at that rose, just check out all of the petals. That is definitely a great size rose that you could use for cut flowers if you wanted to take a rose and bring it into the house. Reminiscent Crema. That is definitely Garden Crossing's favorite. I know the first year we had that, all the girls in the garden center bought one because the flowers were so beautiful and so fragrant. Next we have a Durvilla, and Durvilla are a nice native plant. This is Kodiak Red 2.0. They're native. They can be grown in full sun. They can be grown in full shade. You know, good soil, bad soil. They're deer resistant. They're kind of one of those shrubs, like if you have a place that just nothing else seems to do well, Durvilla is a great choice to put in that space. It's tolerant of so many things and just does very well. You can see it's got beautiful red foliage, and actually this branch right here is really a good one to look at here. So you've got that nice new growth that's really rich in red. That is like a clean looking branch of Durvilla. Now this one is starting to kind of go through its fall dormancy a little bit, where some of the leaves are starting to get a little dry, a little crisp, but that is what the plant looks like in the prime of the summer with its beautiful red foliage. Another Reminiscent Crema rose, and that just goes to show, you know, two of the same plants in two different areas. Both of them are doing and looking fantastic. Here around the implement, we have the begonias in the back there. That is the Surefire Cordial Cherry. And Cordial Cherry, I love it. I love that deep, dark, near black foliage, super glossy, with really vibrant red blooms. And you can see it gets fairly tall. It's almost 3 foot tall here in the landscape. So definitely make sure that you leave enough room for that plant in your garden when you're planting it. Up front, we have the Argyratum. These are the Artist Blue Argyratum. And from a distance, actually my videographer wondered if they were Nepeta. But no, this is an Argyratum, which is annual. So as soon as we get a good hard frost, these are going to be done. Tucked in the back corner, and I almost skipped over it, is the Perfecto Mundo Epic Coral Azalea. And I think that one is really important to show you because we are a zone 6A here, and I wasn't sure how these azaleas were going to do. Now it'll be a bigger test to see once how it overwinters in the garden, so we'll have to be sure to check back next spring to see how it did. But October, and this azalea is still blooming. The Perfecto Mundo azaleas are a reblooming azalea, so they will essentially bloom from early summer clearly all the way into fall. Somebody was actually just asking me today, you know, what does the flower coverage look like? Like, do they have pretty good flower coverage, or, you know, what does it look like? And for this late in the season, I would say that is excellent flower coverage for an azalea here in West Michigan. Continuing on, more roses and more of the Perfectomundo. So another Perfectomundo coral in the back there. Again, just to show you how good it's doing here in West Michigan. Big, nice full plant and flowers and even buds still coming. All right, here is another rose. This is a Senorita rose, and this actually is showing you better what the flowers look like of the Senorita. Nice oranges, yellows, and even a little bit of red. Here's a new bloom just starting, and so you can see even a little bit of red shades on there. It really reminds me of the evening sunset. And then as the flowers age, you can see how they take on a little bit of a pinkish tone as well. So it's kind of neat how you can get two vastly different looking flowers off of one plant. We're to the middle of the garden right now, and we're starting to see things repeated because symmetry is a big deal here. I like things that are symmetrical. So we have another one of our bloomerang lilacs. So that will be blooming in the spring, and that will eventually get 4 foot tall at its maturity. We have another rose, the Atlas rose. We use a lot of the Atlas roses here in the gardens at Garden Crossings because they are just so fragrant and so beautiful. And look at all of these buds. This plant, it'll cycle through the summer where it'll kind of stop, regain its wind, and then go right back at it again. And every time it's cycling and blooming, there's always just a ton of beautiful peachy blooms. And it's just a very fragrant addition. Here's an evergreen that we have planted in this, and this is the Japanese holly, the Glow Pop. Look at the foliage of Glow Pop. Beautiful green, and then all of the new growth is showing bright chartreuse green or yellow. So that's going to look nice in the winter because it's not going to drop its leaves at all. So I think there is another one on the end down there as well. So we'll have a little splash of even winter color in this garden bed. Now next year, we're gonna be adding a lot more things into this bed. I mean, we packed it full of annuals this year because we weren't really sure what we wanted to do with this space. So we loaded it up with roses because we don't have a lot of roses we talk about. But there's gonna be a lot of really cool new perennials, I think, that we'll be able to incorporate in this space as well, because right now there's no perennials planted here. Here's another Oh So Easy Urban Legend rose. And this one too, you can see it's got a lot of these really kind of thick canes on it. So we'll come through and get it all trimmed up like we did earlier in the video to just give it that nice, tight, compact habit. I personally don't like it when roses send out those big long canes. I'd rather trim them off. But that's just a personal preference of mine. Another Sergeant Pepper. You can see that foliage is just so beautiful. And that will get probably about 5 to 6 foot tall at maturity. So it's really gonna give some nice substance in this garden bed. So we had talked about the Glow Pop giving us winter interest. Obviously these red twig dogwoods also give us nice winter interest just from the beautiful red twigs. Another Lemon Zest rose, Aronia. This is Lowscape Snowfire, and it's starting to lose its leaves a little bit, but this one here, typically what we'll see is it turning bright red before it loses its leaves. So we'll see how that one does next year. These were all just planted this spring, so they haven't had a full year in the garden yet. So they're giving us a lot of show, but sometimes if things haven't been in the garden for a full season, you don't know exactly what they're gonna do. And then ending out the row here of roses is another beautiful Atlas rose and a Glow Pop Japanese holly. It's been interesting watching this bed kind of grow into its own this year. It's only been, these were planted up, I believe, May or June. So it's only been 6-7 months or so since this garden's been planted, and it really has given us a lot of color and just a lot of beauty this year. So it'll be fun to watch it next year when it wakes up in the spring and we can see what it does for next summer. If you have any questions or comments on this bed, feel free to leave them below. If you're new to our channel, we welcome you to subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings.